Hi everybody, and welcome to the next week of our course. This week we're going to be covering Chapter 6. And Chapter 6 in Cicerelli White is on memory. Human memory is incredible. I imagine you know people that have very good memories and people who have very poor memories. And we're going to talk about some of the different ways that memory works and different memory systems, how we get memory in, the encoding process and the storage process, and how we get it out, the retrieval process. We notice how interesting and important memory is primarily when it fails, but what we're going to try to look at most of the time this week is its successes and how good human memory actually is. The one aspect that I want to kind of focus you all on this week is the idea of working memory. What's going on in our minds when we have it held in active consciousness? That's sort of what we're talking about when we talk about working memory. This would be the type of memory that you use if, for instance, I gave you a phone number. So let's say I gave you a phone number, that number is 207-581-2826. So I give you that number. What do you do to remember it? You probably keep playing it in your head, right? And consider that, keep it active. We call that rehearsal in working memory. You're keeping it in conscious memory. But how do you memorize that phone number? How do you try to remember it in the long term? We have to rehearse that over and over and over again so that it gets stored into long-term memory. The way that we get information from working memory into long-term memory is through rehearsal or through repetition. That size of your working memory, how much information you're able to cram into your working memory at any given time, is a very important piece of information. It's about 7 plus or minus 2 pieces of information, or chunks, right? So I can keep roughly 7 things in my mind at the same time. If you give me one more thing to remember while I have that working memory full, I'm going to lose something. And I probably will lose a digit in the case of a phone number. I won't quite be able to remember it. The size of that piece of working memory has actually been associated even with intelligence or with IQ. So it could be that people who have the ability to keep more in their minds at any given time through their working memory may show benefits on sort of our standard of intelligence. Once we get that stuff in working memory, we get it moved into long-term memory, eventually we have to recall those things. And retrieval from long-term memory is so interesting. Have you ever had the opportunity to be driving along and you hear a song you haven't heard in 10 years and suddenly you remember where you were when you heard that song the first time? Those memories are important to us. They help define our lives, they help define our histories, but to what extent are they reliable? The book will talk about this, and we'll talk about it on the discussion board. The memories that are not laced with emotion, we tend to not be too worried about how reliable they are. But what about the memories that are recovered or remembered late in life that have some psychological baggage attached to them, perhaps even some legal baggage attached to them? To what extent are those memories reliable, valid representations of what happened in the past, and to what extent are they modifiable? We're going to take a look at that. I think you'll be surprised to see just how modifiable human memory is, and I'm interested to hear your ideas about the implications for that, for human memory. Hope you have a wonderful week.